Hello and welcome, everyone. Been a little while. It is time going over some matches. So I played 2 leagues off stream over the weekend since last stream, and I was very fortunate, and so I have finally hit back-to-back 5-0s with this exact deck list in the Legacy League, so that was pretty exciting. Don't think I've ever done that before. I've come really close, but don't think I've ever just had the back-to-back 5-0. So just 10 straight here. So I had like an 0-2 drop, and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try it again. Got a 5-0, and then I played another one last night and got another one. So the deck, obviously, I'm really happy with. Decklist is on Cardboard Live. If you are on the stream, you can check that out clicking on the Cardboard Live extension. And so the idea for this stream is just going to be kind of a short one, but we're just going to go over the matches, see what happened. Maybe see what plays were made that could make or break a game. And, see what we can learn. So here's the first one. Hopefully Moto doesn't crap out on me and, get the replays wrong. It's always unfortunate when that happens. So first one was on the draw, and I believe this is Rug Delver. So they go Ponder. I believe they shuffled off that Ponder, and that influenced my decision to Cavern out this Lackey. Because if they didn't shuffle off the Ponder, I thought there's a chance that they didn't have another land, meaning that the Lackey, this doesn't cast Lightning Bolt, right? So they would need to either trade with a Delver or like a Mongoose, which would just be a great trade, rather than a Daze. So I Cavern out the Lackey here. I do have a redundant Cavern, which makes it a little less scary, but they do have the second Ponder into fetch Chain Lightning, so that's pretty rough. And our hand is really clunky, so I just fetch to play around Stifle, pass it back. Opponent has a really strong turn 3 here. Brainstorm, Wasteland, Hooting Mandrills. So, huge tempo swing, and I continue to draw more 3-drops. Let's Delver into Ponder. So at this point, I'm very far behind. And I kind of have to decide, am I okay losing if they have another Bolt? And because I could play Matron here and grab like Munitions Expert, and then hope to go draw land and go War Marshal Expert the Mandrills. But that means I'm taking 7 this turn if the Delver flips. And so the Delver's going to kill me rather quickly. But I do have another Matron, so maybe. But I took the risk, and I went for the Warchief line. I was like, you know what? If they don't have the Bolt, then I can really go nuts. So they just have more threats. The Delver doesn't flip, so they just got a bunch of creatures. Draw Sling-Gang, which is pretty sick. So I go for War Marshal there to try to block up the Tarmogoyf a bit. And I end up getting Pitching Force of Negation. So they're on nothing. So I go for Matron. Grab a Lackey. Because I'm thinking the Lackey can deter them from swinging with one of their creatures. And it's also just a 1-drop that I can, if I draw a Gempalm or a Munitions Expert, I can maybe force a trade or get the Lackey through. They draw an Oko here, which is obviously pretty good. And they elk the Delver, which I feel like is probably wrong. They probably should have elked the Warchief. Opponent kind of disrespects Warchief this game, and it costs them a ton. So I chump block, go to 1 or go to 5. Draw another Matron. Take this opportunity to get my Sling-Gang down. I can't attack through the 3/3 Delver. Again, not elking my stuff is bizarre. So I just block sack. Go to 3. And Expert is a great draw. Because now I can swing in for 3. Connect. Put in Pashalik Mons. Hold up Expert. And then I Expert the trample creature in their upkeep. So block sack, go to 1, ping them for 2. Now I just kind of have like a sneaky lethal, right? So opponent drew dead for a couple turns. They didn't draw another Wasteland, which would have probably killed me. They didn't draw another Bolt. So just big swing. And then Pashalik Sling-Gang drains out from here. So this Warchief like fully carried me this game. Like Warchief stuck around for 4 turns, which is quite rare in a Delver matchup. So this is pretty lucky. After their extremely punishing tempo play turn 3 of Brainstorm, Waste You, play Mandrels. Hypno, thank you for the follow. It's game 2. No Lander 7. Reasonable 6 with a Vial and some Wastelands and ports. So I threw back the Munitions Expert, thinking that the problem is with this hand is if the Vial, gets countered or destroyed, then I can't cast anything. So I threw back the least castable card, basically, because all these cards just need 1 red source to work out. I don't remember if they pondered shuffled or not, but I think I'm firing off this Wasteland basically no matter what. Because I really don't want to deal with a 2-drop this turn. I draw a red source is quite nice. Don't play around Stifle there, which is maybe a mistake. They force negation, pitch force negation. But I wanted to, if I was able to draw another red source, I'd want to be able to Munitions Expert this turn probably. And then if they played a Delver, that is. I get to port them. Another chop. Sprite Dragon. I draw a Vial here. This is an interesting question here of do you Cratermaker now or do you play Vial? So the upside of playing Vial is you're going to have an uncounterable Expert or Cratermaker in 2 turns. And you still get to port this turn, meaning you keep them off of red mana, so that means possible like a Dreadhorde Arcanist, or even like a Chain Lightning. Cratermaker now takes less damage. A reason I ended up going with the Vial here is Daze actually really is punishing if they daze the Cratermaker, because then I have to pay for it, and then their Sprite Dragon becomes a 2/2. And I can't Cratermaker it, so if they just cast any spell, I get kind of screwed. So go with the Vial. Thanks, Ghost Region. Support red. Another chop. Here comes an Oko. Does grow the Sprite Dragon. Draw land, so Daze in a way still punishes me, but they ended up not having the Daze, so I just popped this immediately. Mark, you got a link. is this about the... Yep, I saw this. Already retweeted it. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Good job, Wizards. We'll see what happens. So take out the Sprite Dragon while I can. They get a 3/3. That's why Oko's not very threatening in Rug, I think. Yeah, I saw it. So here I opted to not play Matron or Ringleader. I just opted to double port. I'm not sure that's correct. That's taking things pretty slow. However, the fact that they played out the land, I wish I could go back. I really wanted to double port because I wanted to... I've wastelanded one volcanic island, so if I get to port this one, and then I can port this one, they're not going to be able to cast red spells, at least in their main phase for the rest of the game, until they find a wasteland for one of the ports. And if they elk the Vial, I can Vial an Expert and ping the Oko, so it's not that big a deal. I probably should have ported the fetch there. I think that would have been better. Let's go to 9. Chain Lightning. And a Delver. Draw Pyrokinesis, which is really good. Okay, so I think I have a pretty strong read here. The fact that they played out all these lands, I was so convinced that their last card in hand was Force of Will. And I was so convinced that their last card in hand was Force of Will, based on the fact that they actually played out all 5 lands. And just the way the game has played. And normally I'd be so scared of Daze here. But because I was just like, the last card is definitely a Force. I Ringleader first and then Pyrokinesis. Whereas before you'd have to do it the other way. And the upside of doing it this way is I get more information on what to pitch to Pyrokinesis. And hitting a Lackey that I don't really need. I hit Oko there. Maybe a mistake. So they're just one card in hand passing. I'm very sure. So basically I'm trying to hit Oko off of ultimate. Yeah, this is a 5-0 run. So I ended up majoring for Lackey, so maybe pitching Lackey was wrong. But this still generates board state. Maybe I should pitch the War Marshal. But I do get to kill like a big Tarmogoyf if they had one. So cycle Gempalm. Now I'm just going at their face. Now the Oko, because now that I have a sacrifice outlet and they don't have a food to swap, the Oko ultimate doesn't matter anymore. They got a big old Tarmogoyf. Red Elemental Blast. Looks really good here, obviously, but they're actually just dead. Because you can go Pashalik. Attack with everybody except for the Sling-Gang. Block. Sacrifice. Let combat damage resolve. Wasteland them, they crack the food, and then kill them with the food on the stack. Hey there, Steve. So the Wasteland I don't think is actually strictly necessary because you just put them low and then they do it. It doesn't matter. It's a cute play. So yeah, we're in really good shape there. Obviously, the game played out pretty well for us for keeping a no red source hand, but the Vial lived as long as it needed to. So that's round 1. And this was 42 AD, well-known Storm player of interesting variety, where they play lots of unusual builds. So I know they're on Storm, so I'm just like, I mulligan really aggressively. Just trying to find a turn 1 Lackey. Don't find it, but this is like a reasonable hand. Earwig Squad is in the sideboard, not the main deck, which is relevant. Top deck Lackey, which is like really awesome because they have Decay in their main deck of Ant. So drop Matron, grab Sling-Gang. But given that there's no red source, Warchief doesn't really matter yet, and Piledriver is going to come onto play off the Vial probably. So they end up going for double Thoughtseize. But, you know, they're interacting with me, not killing me, which is fine. There's a question there of do I drop Cratermaker or do I drop Warchief? Because the Cratermaker does technically interact with Ant, right? If they have a double LED hand. But it slows down the clock pretty considerably. If I do that, because next turn the Cratermaker is going to come into play off the Vial and is going to be able to attack. And I could also top deck another Piledriver, where I would be super punished if I had led with the Cratermaker. Because it'd be the difference between lethal and not lethal. So opponent just passes it back, doesn't have the pieces that they need. Gempalm, not particularly relevant, but it's a 2-1. And we just kind of get there with the crappy beats. So this is like, they had too much interaction, right? They'd Thoughtseize, Decay. I imagine they've summoned a Rift to Rest in their hand or something. That top deck Goblin Lackey on turn 2 was really clutch. We've been pretty super dead without it. Game 2. So this build I've got Earwig Squad in the sideboard, which makes Matron a much higher value than against normal Ant. I also know this person plays like a lot of controlling cards in Ant, in their Ant build, so I'm okay keeping this hand with like very little hate. So I drew a second Wasteland, so I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to fire off the Wasteland and see what happens. So just a fetch and pass. Another Matron. That's actually really good, because now I can't get Thoughtseized off my squad, because that's what happens here. Hey, Loki. And I top deck the squad, which is really cool, because now we get to do one of the cooler plays. Matron, Skirk Prospector, fetch out another black source, sack, cast squad, take tendrils empty, and that is GG. So getting the turn 3 squad through a Wasteland, or after I Wasteland them on turn 1, and they Thoughtseize the Matron. So the second Matron was really good there. And obviously drawing the squad was amazing. I mean, if I didn't draw the squad, then probably Wasteland them, hold up Reb, and then I'll probably Matron for Sling. I mean, squad. The problem with Matroning for squad at that point then would be if I don't draw a if I don't draw a third land. I probably actually in that point you're supposed to Matron for Matron. That's what you're supposed to do. Because if you do draw the third land, then you can get the squad in the following turn, and if you don't, then you could get like a Piledriver or Sling-Gang or something like that. So that was 2-0 against Storm, which is pretty sick. The first league was just like crazy. I dropped a single game on the draw here. Very reasonable hand. Turn 1 Chalice, pretty good. I draw the Wasteland. Fire off this Wasteland City. I think people probably don't Wasteland City of Traders enough. Because like they want to wait, but then they just get punished by like another proactive element. Yeah, because like this is what happens, right? Draw a Cavern, which is awesome. And I go for the port here because they missed a land drop. I could have gone Cavern Lackey, which may have been better, honestly. Because I do get pretty punished here by the Blood Moon, so I can't Cavern out my Lackey anymore. And this Sling-Gang stuck in my hand now. But Warchief's pretty good. And I guess I do have the Cratermaker, so I could go Cratermaker, blow up Chalice, Lackey, connect, put in Sling-Gang. And I can have Piledriver along with that. They play a Rabble Master. Gempalm Incinerator is the Nut versus Rabble Master. So just throw my hand on the table for quite a bit. Hit them for 9. Just massive tempo swing. Got Magus, not a big deal. And then I get a cool play here. Pashalik is Arc Lightning. Opponent said cool play. So the Pashalik pawn's making so that Cratermaker kills both the token and the Magus so that the Piledriver can swing through freely. So Piledriver did a shit ton of damage this game, right? Like we played it. I mean, the Warchief was great. Warchief's so good against this kind of deck. Like they did not have very much removal. Piledriver hit for 7 here, and then it hit for 5 on the previous turn, right? Yeah, card's really good. 1 mana, deal like 9, or way more than 9. Turn 1 Blood Moon, ironically, makes my hand so much better. Though, I mean, they might have died to double Wasteland. A Braid, not bad, but we've got the second Vial. Realm Master, don't have a clear answer. It is nice that with the Vial, I'm going to sit this Vial on 2 in case I draw Munitions Expert. Go for the Warchief here. I think I can race this Rabble Master, given that I have Chainwhirler to clean up the tokens, and Piledriver just crunches in for like 1 million. And then I've got 1 card in hand. Top deck a Ringleader. So I go for the Chainwhirler here, push a whole lot of damage. They do have a Bone Crusher Giant, which kind of sucks, but we're still pretty ahead. Top deck a Chandra, which is pretty good. I'm at 9, so I have to be a little bit careful. Fiery Confluence could be pretty scary. So leave the Vial on 2 because of Munitions Expert. Hit Pashalik, Warchief, Lackey. So punished, to some extent. Keep the Chainwhirler back just to brick the Rabble Master. At this point, since I drew 3 cards and I have a Gempalm in hand, I'm just like, I just need to not die. Opponent attacks. Play the Bone Crusher. Violin, the old Lackey. And then Pashalik makes combat math just really horrible for the opponent here with the Gempalm and a War Marshal. So Gempalm, the Bone Crusher. I believe they just scooped to that. Yeah. So I mean, they knew about these 2 cards. So I get to Violin, Warchief, cast Pashalik, cast War Marshal, and that's an attack for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So they'd have to chump block the Chainwhirler. If they block the Lackey, the Rabble Master trades with Lackey. They could block Warchief, I guess, or block Pashalik. I guess I'm probably not supposed to attack with Pashalik, so that Fiery Confluence kills them if they cast it. Obviously, we draw another card off of Gempalm as well, so that could influence the play. So here's round 4. This is against Yorion Snow. Easy mull. Pretty solid hand. Put back the Mountain. That was actually a really tough decision. Because Cavern of Souls is really important in the Snow matchup, right? I want both the Vials normally, because I kind of assume the first one's going to get handled. But it ends up playing out that putting back the red source for the Gempalm matters, and also just putting back a 3rd land matters, because I think I get stuck on 2 lands for a long time in this game. So I think putting back, it's possible putting back Gempalm is correct. Support Vial, bluffing D&T. Draw Lackey, which is awesome. Port the island. And they go for Decay. I get to Violin. So the huge blowout, basically. And I was really hoping to draw land there, but I did not. So I really do wish this Gempalm Incinerator was another land, because then I could go Vial Port. But in a way, it kind of works out because it forces me to take a more aggressive line, which I probably should be doing anyway. But I go for Trashmaster here because I'm just like, okay. So there's a couple reasons to go for Trashmaster here, actually. If they wanted to go like Astrolabe, Dead of Winter, if they didn't play another basic with it, they'd only have two snow permanents if I shatter the Astrolabe with the Mogg War Marshal Trashmaster, meaning that the Trashmaster would survive. And I would keep a 2/2 token because I would sacrifice the token, not the main body. And also just puts on the most pressure. It's also really good against what my opponent has, which is Astrolabe into Baleful Strix. So Baleful Strix looking really bad here. I get to free shatter it with the War Marshal. Draw another Vial, which is pretty bad. We're not really at that stage of the game. I'm just trying to kill them. So again, would much prefer to have a mountain here, but draw 4. But now they're at such a low life total, I'm just trying to kill them. I just don't want them to be able to cast a Wrath here, basically. Abrupt Decay doesn't matter. I shattered in their upkeep so they can cast Swords of Plowshares on the Trashmaster. That's why I shattered preemptively. So they conceded. They weren't stuck on lands. And we got the port, and we're attacking them for 8. So they go to 1. And I'm not sure they could actually get out of that 1 life. We could play Vile Lackey, and then... I mean, Dead of Winter would kind of get them out of it, but then we'd be threatening a instant speed creature every turn, and we'd have multiple ways of clearing blockers. So obviously they couldn't win because that's why they conceded. So game 2. So the way we won the game was basically the Lackey coming in off the Vial. That really punished that Abrupt Decay. Had a rough 7, so I'm all going to 6. This is a pretty good 6 though. Piledriver is really good. So Decay. Play draw matters, right? On the draw, this would have been let the Lackey sneak through like last game, but it's not how things work. Go with the Lackey. Okay with being a little less efficient. Abundant Growth, Karakas. So here I'm thinking Plow. I draw Karakas of my own, which is quite nice because now I'm not scared of Uro, really. So Matron for Ringleader, prep for a little bit of a longer game here. More Astrolabes. Oh, and I think I sideboarded kind of interestingly. So I took out a Wasteland, Skirk Prospector, Chainwhirler, Cratermaker, Trashmaster. I think Trashmaster might be supposed to stay in against these Yorion snow decks because they have a lower density of Swords of Plowshares. They're more reliant on Abrupt Decay. And blowing up the Astrolabes incidentally really matters when they're trying to draw a bunch of cards off of Yorion. Also, I think my opponent forgot to reveal Yorion this game, and I did not register that until much too late. But, it would have mattered that, these two draw 2 cards later. This draws a card later as well. So here, I opt to attack first, and I'm trying to, basically juke their plays. I imagine they're holding up Ice Fang here to try to block Ringleader. So I decided to go for double Piledriver, and then a huge swing with Ringleader on the following turn. But they do have Decay. Preordain. Another fetch, not great. So this Ringleader needs to be pretty good. That's decent. I got a Gempalm and a Squad. Squad's looking pretty good. So, swing in. And I got a Snapcaster, which is pretty unfortunate for me. Snapcaster Decay is quite good. But they don't block the Ringleader, which I thought was kind of surprising. Especially since they saw the Earwig Squad in the Gempalm Incinerator. I think my opponent, I think, got pretty greedy. Tried to leave the Snapcaster in play. So I get to Lackey, Gempalm. So they value the Lackey more. So they go to hold up Plow on the Lackey. Or they end up playing the Squad, obviously. But I mean, if they plowed the Matron, they could have kept the squad from coming down. And I ended up taking Uros. I saw 3 Uros, 3 Okos, 3 Dead of Winters as like possible targets. They also had 2 Jaces, and it was like a 4 Snapcaster build. In retrospect, this was wrong. I saw they didn't have any back to basics. Yeah, we'll see if companions leave. Yeah, they had 2 Jaces. Yeah. I saw they didn't have any back to basics in their deck, so I think I should have taken the Okos, because with Karakas in play, they can't really make forward progress on my life total without Oko, so they'd have to win with Jace ult, which is pretty hard to do against Goblins, especially since Munitions Expert was printed. So I get like super punished here, because then they go Brainstorm, Strix, Oko. So I felt pretty bad about that. Draw another land, obviously not great. But I mean, I did a 3 red blast, so I was thinking, oh, I can answer Okos in other ways, but I do have some time. I'm at 20. Sling-Gang, pretty solid draw. Decay the Matron. They're just kind of firing off removal spells, so I don't gain a bunch of life, I guess. Yeah, everyone kind of hates Oko. Meddling Mage on Ringleader. Pretty reasonable name. Draw War Marshal. So I just got like infinite stalling at this point. They go for the ultimate, so I sack Sling-Gang in response. So I just traded Sling-Gang for a drain and then 5 loyalty on Oko, which, you know, is okay. Draw another War Marshal. I don't really have any, so I get a big swing in, I can finally kill the Oko. So these War Marshal tokens are putting in some serious work. So it's 2 3/3s, a 1/1, and a 2/2 versus 6 1/1s, or 5, yeah, 6 1/1s, kind of 7. I don't know if I have thoughts yet. We'll see. If the companion mechanic goes, that's pretty cool. I'd be happy about that. So get my free block. Vial up to 4, so I can vial on a Ringleader if I get one. Just more lands, though. They gain some life. They play a Null Rod, so now I can no longer get Ringleader into play until I kill this Meddling Mage, which kind of sucks. Draw a Red Elemental Blast, which is pretty decent. So if I top deck a Ringleader, I can take out the Meddling Mage. The top deck an Oko, so Snap Blast that. So go for the quad block on the Astrolabe. I just need to stop taking a whole bunch of damage, and I need to kill their stuff. Another land. So this is all my fetch. I don't have any fetchables left in my deck, so that was actual worst draw. You know, this is turn. You know, turn 14. Seen half my deck, and we're at 1 Matron, 1 Ringleader. It's kind of rough. No Munitions Experts. Expert would have been excellent on this board. But I go for triple block on the Meddling Mage, so I can cast a Ringleader if I draw it. But I do go to 3, which is a scary number. Top deck a Ringleader, which is obviously super exciting. I only hit a Warchief, which is less exciting. I'm like, okay, I can turn the corner here if I just, you know, draw well from here out. I've put a couple duds on the bottom of my deck, but then they have Dead of Winter, and Astrolabe survives Dead of Winter for some reason. There's a Null Rod in play. Can't meddling, can't violet it in. So I die to the one-sided Wrath, being one-sided. Obviously I had plenty of good draws from there. Like, I believe I got 1 War Marshal left, 2 Ringleaders left, 3 Matrons left. If I'd hit hit Munitions Expert off of the Ringleader, then I could have killed the Astrolabe and potentially won this game. But on to game 3. At this point, I was kind of convinced that I was going to win on time more than anything else, because my opponent's on 8.5 minutes. I'm on 13. Sketchy hand here. I saw that they had 3 Null Rods in their deck post-board, but there's no way you're mulliganing this hand against Snow. I got a Cavern, I got double Vial. So, Vial Abundant versus Abundant Growth. Draw a Karakas, which is quite nice. Play out the second Vial, run the Piledriver, and then get Null Rotted. And also, I boarded out both my Cratermakers and my Trashmaster, so here's another reason to leave in Trashmaster or one Cratermaker. I have no Shatters in my deck. And I top took the third Vial. So, strong draws. They got an Uro. We got Karakas, so it's not that scary. Draw a third land, which is pretty critical. Get him for 1. And here I'm like, okay, Matron for Squad. It's a quote-unquote value card that I can cast, and they would need, like Plow plus removal. Or Plow plus blocker to stop the Squad from coming in. Draw Port, which is okay. So they had Decay on the Piledriver. But I get to hit them for 1. I get to Squad them. Damn it. I take the 3 Dead of Winter. So they have no Wraths left in their deck. That's the relevant bit of info. So now they just have to like kind of fight a fair fight to win. So no more Wrath of Gods. I take the 3 here. They're also under a lot of time pressure. When double Sling-Gang in hand, I feel like I can delay the game for kind of forever. War Marshal, very reasonable draw. I go for the Sling-Gang here, pre-combat. Also relevant, they only have 2 basics in play. And that matters because Ice-Fang Coatl does not have Death Touch right now. And I swing at their face. I don't think Oko matters. Trying to kill Oko. Squad is not legendary now. So they go for the block. I think they thought they had Death Touch, but they do not. So they go for the ultimate. Sack and response. It's fine. Baleful Strix. Preordain. Attacking I thought was kind of odd. But again, they're under so much time pressure. I'm up by 7 minutes. Draw their land. Attack. Keep the Squad back. I didn't want to trade it into the Baleful Strix. Get my War Marshal down. Someone's legendary first strike. That would be sick. So this is a problem. I mean, Squad, was good. It had a good effect, but it also like doesn't. It's hard to, it fights an elk, I guess. So their decays don't really have any targets right now, which is hilarious. So they just decay the War Marshal token, which is great. 5 mana creatures, too good. Pay Echo, draw another War Marshal. So I just have like infinite stall. And also I'm just waiting to draw a Gempalm or a Munitions Expert so I can take out the Oko and himself or the Elk, so I can finally start attacking. I go for a block. It seems pretty easy. Just don't want to take damage. Though maybe it was a mistake because they could have Dead of Winter there. Wasteland the Karakas. Go for Sling-Gang. I believe they have Plow. They have Snapcaster. Snapcaster with no relevant targets, which is pretty hilarious. So big swing at Oko. Finally can finish him off. Almost. They can decay a token. But now, at this point, Oko goes to 2. They lose their Snapcaster. We go to 15. They also have a minute to win. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 points of drain. They can Yorion, yeah, but I have Karakas. They can draw 2 cards. For 5 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. So, yeah, they can draw some cards, but, there's just no way they can win this game in time. They also have an Uro in the graveyard, but again, not going to win in time. So, I mean, this is definitely a problem with the Yorion decks is they time out a lot. So, I mean, if this game didn't have a time limit, I mean, it's just hard for them to clear this board, right? Because I took all the Dead of Winters, so they have no Wraths. Like, how are they churning through all of these tokens? As long as, like I still have all of my Ringleaders in my deck. I still have 2 Piledrivers, all my Munitions Experts, all my Gempalms, Red Blast. Like, I'd have to brick pretty hard for a while to actually lose this game, regardless of chess clock. And then this was the round 5. On the play against Gyruda. All right. This is a tough decision. This is a tough decision. You see it's Gyruda. This is obviously a keep. This is like the best possible hand against Gyruda game 1, more or less. Do you go Karakas? They kept 7. Do you go Karakas Pass, or do you play Lackey? And I think this is like a really genuinely hard question because it's that very easily could have been a drawn paper. I agree. I end up going with Cavern Lackey. Because there's a couple of reasons. If they can turn 1 me, yes, it sucks. I don't really know the turn 1 rate of Gyruda. But also the fact that they kept 7, I don't know, maybe this is just like a stupid, not true thing. But I feel like combo opponents who keep 7 makes them less likely to turn 1 me. Because I feel like when people keep 7 cards, unless they just have the stone cold nuts, they are keeping slower hands that are more resilient. And I also know that Gyruda is a Chalice deck now, right? So they might be keeping a hand off the back of turn 1 Chalice. And our hand does not give a fuck about turn 1 Chalice. So if I get... And if also, my experience playing against Gyruda a lot of the time is turn 1 Ancient Tomb, Grim Monolith Pass, and then kill me on the following turn. This line lets me go turn 1 Lackey, put in Trashmaster on turn 2, play Lackey, sacrifice it to kill the Monolith, and hold up Karakas. So it's kind of a form of mana denial. So I just need to fade this 1 draw step. So then I'm just going Cavern on Demon, go. And so this is kind of the perfect setup, right? And then having Chalice on turn 2, so they kept a Chalice hand. Yeah, the addition of Chalice was significant. We top deck a Ringleader was obviously insane. And we hit 4. So now we have Sling-Gang in play, and a port. So I get to port them off of blue mana, and they would need a lot. Yeah, fewer clones, Thought-Knot Seer. So basically, from this point, it's really unlikely they can actually kill me. And even if they did have a decent amount of comboing, like Sling-Gang, like, can probably win the race for me. Because they would have to go, like, make a bunch of clones through the Karakas and still... like, attack me in a relevant way and still have blockers for all of this, because I can, like... Piledriver also bricks Gyruda as a combatant, which is hilarious. So winning game 1 was obviously super clutch. And then game 2 here. Obviously, no, post board, I'm not keeping any hand that doesn't have hate, basically. So no hate, even though decent proactive hand. Then I got a turn 1 cage. Piledriver is the best card here because if they just cast Gyruda as a 6/6, Piledriver just blocks it forever. So I go Ancient Tomb, Grim Monolith. I'm like, oh god, please don't have LED. They do not, and then I just get to play Cage. And then they are sad. Prospector's nice draw as well. So they go for the Gyruda just as a 6/6. Mills things that don't matter. And then I draw a second Cage. So I got a Piledriver. So at this point, I'd have to be concerned about like a Thought-Knots here. So Monolith. I draw a Red Blast, so I take a Wasteland you, blast your Gyruda, play Prospector. So pretty sick. I just scooped to that kind of wave of interaction all at once, right? So that was the first 5-0. So Cage was really clutch. I mean, even if they did get a Thought-Knot Seer down, they're just taking the Grafter's Cage, and we just got a bit of a standoff. Their mana is terrible. They would have to tap their Grim Monolith to play Thought-Knot. And then I still have got Cratermakers in the deck. I kept in an Expert so I could potentially kill a Thought-Knot with that in combat. So yeah, we'd be okay if they played a Thought-Knot Seer, because they would just be like stun rating themselves like crazy. And with the Prospector in play, our draws are pretty live as well. So that was the first one, and now this was last night. So the second league I got pretty lucky. I won the die roll a lot. I think I lost it one time. So turn 1 Lackey on the play, got double Lackey. This hand's a little sketch against like a Wasteland. Like Delver. This is a hand you're scared to have against Delver. And it's Red Stompy again. They go for turn 1 Chalice. I'm like, oh, thank God. Drop the Warchief. Just pass it back. They pitched a Spirit Guide to cast that Chalice. I'm assuming that they don't have a whole lot of other mana. Do have a city, but no red sources. So I go for Matron pre-combat, grab Trashmaster. Felt the Cage is affected, grab Black Rib Grizzle Breeze. I haven't played against Reanimator in a while, so pound scoops there. I mean, yeah, they're kind of screwed. Next turn, I could sack Matron, kill the Chalice, play Lackey. Well, Drazi, thank you for the follow. Any land lets me play Ringleader. A red source lets me cast Expert, so obviously really good spot. Red Stompy's a very, very good matchup. And I was fortunate to see it a lot. So this is a good hand that is very sad to see a turn 1 Chalice, which is what happens. Draw Wasteland, just fire it off. I'm a huge proponent of Wastelanding Red Prison on turn 1 because of that. Really don't want them to get to 3 mana. That's the flashpoint for Red Prison. Hey, Saito-san. I'm doing all right. Reviewing these 5-0 matchups. This is round 1 of the second 5-0. So I play a Piledriver. I draw a third land, which is really nice. Now, like, Trinisphere doesn't, like, just brick me like it would have. And fourth land is perfect, because now I can Ringleader on turn 4. Or turn 5, rather. So I flash an Expert here to get some Piledriver damage in, but then they end up playing Bonecrusher Giant. I kind of thought this might happen. And it is nice if you can Expert your own creature in response to Bonecrusher Giant, because then it fizzles and they don't have a 4/3. But that would cause me to use my mana really inefficiently. I'd have to use none of my mana of the previous turn and then hold up mana instead of casting Ringleader. So I thought casting Ringleader is just better. Cavern's nice. Draw 4, ding, ding, ding. Discard Vial, it's never going to matter. There's a Blood Moon, so Expert's down, so is the Sling-Gang. Unless I end up blowing up this Chalice. But they are at 5. They took a lot of damage off that Ancient Tomb. Trousseau, thank you for the follow. So yeah, opponent could play Bonecrusher Giant, and then I'd like pay Echo and attack. They go to 2, then play Cratermaker. It's like, how do they get out of that? really. Yeah, good matchup is good. This was Gyruda. I mulligan to this. Not the best. Basically looking for Goblin Lackey or Karakas. Turn on Chalice, LED, pass it back. So I get super punished here, leading on the port instead of the Wasteland, because I do top deck the Karakas. And I obviously have to play the Karakas, and I can't port there. So in a way, it's rough, but also this I end up not wasting any of the city traders, so it's kind of okay. So they just go for it. I mean, their hand is all mana, so they can't really beat the Karakas. Send it back to the grip. They hit Dragon Lord Kolaghan. Hit me for 6, but I'm like, oh, thank God, top deck Karakas. Still haven't drawn a red source, but we'll get there eventually. Still have no red source, but they just scoop like double port, Wasteland, single red source is gonna win me eventually. So how am I consistently beating Omni? The red blasts are really good. Mindbreak Trap has surprisingly been good for the Cunning Wish lines. So those are usually the ones they try to go for killing you. The blue-green Omni builds feel a lot easier because they don't play nearly as much fast mana, and they don't play sweepers. So like Pyroclasm out of normal Sneak and Show is like one of the hardest cards to beat because it's just really hard to play around. I also think that the introduction of Sling-Gang significantly improved the Omni matchup because it's easy. You can kill them on their turn, so you can just deal a whole bunch of damage to them with Piledriver and stuff. And then just wait for them to cast Show and Tell, and then you just put in Sling-Gang and kill them in response to whatever they're doing. Always reb the Show, 100% of the time. I mean, obviously, if they like go like Show Omni and then like Brick for a turn, and then you top deck reb, then it's very good. Okay, so I think I keep a bad hand here. I thought Chalice would be, potentially good enough. But I am on the draw, and and this hand does not really have a clock. But I also kept it because I had the Wasteland. But given that I have like a bunch of good stopper cards, I also didn't board in the Earwig Squad, which I think is correct because I'm not sure they have like relevant squad targets. Like I guess you could take the 3 other Gyrudas or like the Thought-Knot series, but I liked it less than a lot of my other cards just because it's kind of clunky to get into play. And I just want all my creatures to be castable. That's maybe wrong though, but it's not great in the matchup by any stretch. So I keep this hand and they mulligan into Oblivion, but that's the thing. It's like they mulligan to 3 and they just go pedal LED. Like, oh, nice Chalice is me. And then they just top deck City Traders and kill me. So, yeah. That was a stupid game. I should have mulliganed that hand. Cage, Mindbreak Trap, Reb. I mean, Mindbreak would have been Mindbreak actually would not have saved me. I would have had to Mindbreak the Pedal, and then they just top deck City and win anyway because they had 1 mana left over. So Mindbreak would not have saved me, but Reb would have saved me. Karakas would have saved me. I guess they would have gotten a Resto into play, or they could have taken my Sling-Gang. Sling-Gang is probably better. Maybe not. I've got 2 War Marshals. Yeah. This is not a keep. Chalice bad on the draw. However, Chalice pretty good on the play because I get this hand. I'm looking to 5, right? Yeah. I got Chalice, Mindbreak Trap. Yeah, Gyruda is pretty abysmal magic. So the thing about Gyruda is if there's a Chalice on 0, they have a really hard time producing blue mana. So my Rebs and Cages are offline, which is a little scary. top deck a black source. However, but because I know that they can't play 0 mana things, there's no way they can get Gyruda to play next turn, so I don't need to port them. And I just don't need to get the pressure on. So, haha, Chalice. Top deck Piledriver. Again, I don't think there's a way for them to reach 6 mana without 0 mana stuff, so don't need to port there, and I can play the Piledriver safely as well. And now this Piledriver is just crunching them for 5, so they're taking 7 a turn. So, yep. So the way that, and then they can see, but if they kept playing, if I didn't draw a land, then I hit them for 7, and they can only tap one of their Ancient Tombs, and if I do draw a land, then I hit them for 2/4. That's just lethal, right? Yeah, that's just actually lethal. Imagine spending many thousands of your dollars to buy into Legacy, only playing against Gyruda or Show and Tell. Yeah. So Chalice on 0, really good on the play, really mediocre or bad on the draw is the lesson. Also, the lesson is top deck your 1 of Karakas. That's another good lesson. Is this next round? I believe so. This might be Gyruda. I might just pick the same one. Nope. Okay. So on the play again, Goblin Lackey. Oh, this one's kind of interesting. This is Rug Delver. So they do have the Bolt, which obviously I'm sad about. But I get to Wasteland them, play. So this is like the very high risk kind of play. But when you top deck the second Lackey, you just got to go for it. And they Wasteland me back, which is pretty funny. And I draw a land, which is nice. So here, I Matron for Lackey because I have so much gas in my hand. I just need to deploy. So they force the Lackey. Makes sense. They don't have a land. Here, I think I make a mistake. Draw Cratermaker, not useful. I end up putting in, so it's just a question here of do you put in Ringleader, Piledriver, or Cratermaker? I believe I put in the Ringleader here because I really wanted to hit another 1-drop, but I should have done the math and realized that I only have 2 1-drop goblins left in my deck. There's only 1 more Lackey, and there's only Skirk Prospector. So, and the Ringleader just has a decent chance of just bottoming a bunch of lands that I want to draw. So I should have put in the Piledriver because the way I lose this game conceivably is them, drawing out of it. So I just need to end the game as soon as possible. Goblins is good versus some Delver. It's always at least decent versus Delver. I have a really good record versus Rug Delver. So obviously just hit a bunch of 2-drops that I can't cast and super punished. So they hit the land and they have another Bolt. So if I had put the Piledriver into play, I'd be in much better shape. Because the Piledriver would be hitting them for three this turn, so 1 more this turn, which is not that significant. But so I play the Piledriver. I maybe should have ported them, but I feel like I needed to increase the pressure. Because if they just went like Trop Hooting Mandrels, I get super fucked. So big swing in. I need the life total to be as low as possible. So I hit them down to 3. Play War Marshal and they daze it. So I'm like, I'm like 12-2 versus Rug Delver. Second Dread Horde. So this game's kind of slipping out of my fingers a little bit. Cavern's pretty clutch. So they block. I get to take out one of the Dread Hordes. And now if I draw a 4th land, the Ringleader might be lethal if they ever fetch. So they go Ponder, Bolt me, or Bolt the dude. And they don't Wasteland me, so I bet their last card in hand is Oko, or one of their last cards in hand is Oko. That's the only explanation I have for them not Wastelanding me, because obviously it costs them the game. I get lethal that way. I mean, if they hadn't Wastelanded me, then, or if they had Wastelanded me, then I go like Piledriver, Wasteland the Volk, I guess. Then maybe they're just screwed. They can Ponder once, but then they die if they don't hit land. So maybe they're kind of screwed no matter what. because I draw a land, and it's a Wasteland. But yeah, not playing around. I mean, like, it's not even just Ringleader that punishes here, it's Warchief. I bet that their last card in hand, or one of their 2 cards is Oko, and they don't have a 3rd mana source. So they felt like they couldn't Wasteland me. They also may have been scared of the port. That's a little unlikely with 2 Ponders in the graveyard and a Dreadhorde in play. So yeah, I think not Wastelanding there was pretty crazy. I was really not expecting that. Though, as it turns out, may have not mattered. Here's a really interesting keep mull. So you know they're on multiple Dreadhorde Arcanists. Wasteland's very good against this iteration of Rug, and you're on the draw. You have a Lackey if you draw a red source. Vial is insane with this curve. We have a 1-2-3 curve. And double Wasteland to slow the game down. There's 16 red sources in the deck, 4 Vials, so that's 20 hits, and then another Pyrokinesis slows the game down again, another Wasteland, so that's 2 more Wastelands, another Pyrokinesis, 23 of basically like good top decks from here. This hand looks really weird to keep, but with the Pyrokinesis, I feel like you can afford to keep this kind of sketcher. It does have some weaknesses, obviously. If they played Turwan Delver, I'd be kind of scared. Sling-Gang, one of the worst draws. Draw another Lackey, not great. So I have bricked on 2 so far. They play a Dreadhorde. And here I draw Vial, yeah. So this becomes a really tough choice as well. I could Wasteland the Volcanic and then Pyrokinesis them. If they have a Force, that's super bad for me. So I guess I have Pyrokinesis on their turn so they can't force a negation me. I really wanted to get this Vial down, but I feel like I couldn't allow them to untap with this Dreadhorde. So what I end up doing is just Pyrokinesis first. They daze, I pay for it, and then they force. So that tells, so they didn't have, I'm assuming they didn't have another colored land in hand, so they really didn't want me to Wasteland them. So force pitch Oko. So Ponder, Wasteland me, and they found another land. And I believe I just brick from here. Delver flips to Force of Will. Yeah, I just scooped there. Don't think I can get out of that point when they're casting multiple Brainstorms every turn. And my hand is this. So I kept a risky keep, but I think it's a acceptable risk. So I had like 23 good hits after like 3 draw steps, and I didn't get any of them. I haven't actually done the math, but the fake math in my brain says that that's okay. So on to game 3. Like, imagine that game if we just draw like a mountain or cavern on turn 1. Because if we'd drawn 1 more land, then we would have been able to go like Wasteland, you play Vial, they force the Vial, and then I Kinesis the Arcanist. So turn 1 Relic, lead off the Cavern so I can Expert a Delver on turn 2, because I think most Delver players, when they see turn 1 Relic, will jam Delver like ASAP because their other threats are all graveyard dependent, like Mandrels, Arcanist, and Goyf. So getting spells with the Relic is always really nice. More Caverns, just port them. Slow the game down. Now I just get to Matron. So this is an interesting application of port, right? Like, people maybe don't see the application of port in terms of like what it does for goblins. And so you see right there, port is a effective 2-drop. Port allowed me to utilize mana even though I had I had reactive 2-drops that I didn't actually want to cast. The Munitions Experts. And I couldn't cast my more expensive spells. So it's just a delaying of the game until you can hit your land drops. That's Port's like almost primary function in Goblins, which is different than Death and Taxes. 1/2 Tarmogoyf, looking pretty sad. Put this Relic in play. Draw a Vial, which is kind of interesting. I would like to get that down sooner rather than later. But I go for the guaranteed kill on the Goyf here, just a full 4 damage. There's not really any way they could stop this. So them bolting that made me think of immediately of Rough Tumble. Yeah, exactly, Lucky. So they have a Dreadhorde. No Rough Tumble yet. Wasteland is super good. So I get to go Expert your Arcanist. Attack you for 4. And with their mana pretty pinned, I decide to waste and import them rather than play the Vial, because I really am trying to dodge Rough Tumble. So take them off red. The green threats don't matter anymore because I've got the Relic in play. Just keep activating Relic. We got a Force Negation, Pitching Daze, port the Volk. So they draw another land, and there's the Rough Tumble. So I was thinking Blazing Volley at the time, but it's effectively the same thing. So here I pop the Relic to try to hit some more lands, so I can rebuild faster after this Ringleader. Hit 4 again. My Ringleaders were pretty clutch in these leagues. Yeah, Hooting Mandrills was another reason to pop Relic right there. That's a big one, actually. So another Dreadhoarde's kind of scary. Go for Matron, and it's a tough question of whether or not you go for immediately for Expert. So I realize I can go for Munitions Expert and try to kill the Dreadhorde. They can't block. If I get Expert and attack, they can't block, because I just let damage resolve and then Expert after combat. And even double bolt wouldn't save the Dreadhorde. This is my guess. But you got to think about the game state. There are no spells in the graveyard for Dreadhorde, and the only way you lose this game is if they have like a big blowout play, and you just get ruined and just kind of fall behind on board. So I realize they're at 6. I've got 5 lands in hand, 5 lands in play, and they don't have a Wasteland. They go for blue Elemental Blast. I could have red blasted back, but it didn't matter, right? Because they're just gonna get back with Dreadhorde. So now with the Sling-Gang in hand and the War Marshal, I'm just like, wait, they can't actually survive next turn no matter what, right? Because then I just go Skirk, Sling-Gang, and then attack. Well, I guess I'm supposed to attack first, right? So Relic was pretty good that game, right? We shrunk the Goyf, maybe kept a Mandrels pinned in hand, and allowed the Dreadhorde fewer options. You know, we exiled a Brainstorm and a Ponder, and a drew a card, of course. So happy with Relic. And here was round 4. Here, I'm curious about what the chat thinks. Is this hand keepable? I don't know. Some people are playing Beb. You're on the play against no companion. That's all the information you have. Handful of 2-drops. I like the way you think. I just want to see what chat says about this hand. Lackey, Mountain, Mire, Badlands, Triple Port. Here's the thing, though. You don't concede to Plow, because all your top decks are live with so many lands. So this is, I think I keep this hand And I didn't even have to think about it that hard. Because I think this is like one of those hands that's very unique to Goblins, and that you can keep these like ludicrously land heavy hands just because your top decks are so good. Because Goblins is so ridiculously mana hungry. And Ringleader, like if you draw a Ringleader, his hand becomes like a perfect hand. So they also Cabal Therapy me. And I draw a second Lackey, which is not the best, not the worst. At this point, any Goblins are good. Any Goblin is a good draw. So we're just keeping them pinned on mana. Brainstorm. So at this point, I'm thinking it's Storm. Draw Warchief, which is decent. Not playing it pre-combat, play around counter spells if it's something else other than Storm, which it is, turns out. Play a Badlands. Pretty confident they're not a Wasteland deck, so that's why I did that. Maybe it was a mistake. But here they go in Decay Me, so I'm like, okay, so this is not Storm. Island Ponder. So we're just eating up. They've not been able to make any like proactive, So here, I decide to double port rather than Wasteland, thinking it's a little bit more efficient. There is some appeal of taking them off black in the upkeep because they could have another Decay. This would keep them off Decay. Or I could Wasteland the Trop so they couldn't cast like a Coatl, but they also don't have snow-covered islands, so I'm assuming there's no Coatl in there. So we're just getting there with our 1/1s because they just can't make any forward headway with double port going on. So port the duels, they brainstorm, they got a Birds of Paradise. So at this point I'm like, okay, so this is like Bug Zenith or something like that, maybe Nickfit. Draw another land. So now Mana Denial's not looking super hot. Obviously they've got birds in play, but we still got double port plus a Wasteland, so like they don't have a ton. They still only have 2 mana in their actual turn. Though they've yet to miss a land drop with those brainstorms. There's a Baleful Strix. And then the opponent gets ultimately punished for not blocking Goblin Lackey. Because it's like, I've whiffed for so many turns in a row. And then we get to go Ringleader into Trashmaster, Matron, Cratermaker. Trashmaster is very, very good here. More double port. So now we just have a free kill in the Strix. They can't cast Decay if they draw it. So Manipulate Phase. So it's Food Chain. So that's quite informative. And another Wasteland. So blow that up. Get more double Lackey connections. And then Matron for Sling-Gang finishes them off. That is not what I did, Moto. So, yeah, Matron for Sling kills them. So they got super punished for, like, obviously I top deck Ringleader at, like, the perfect time. Zero Lander, throw back. Turn 1 Birds. This is, like, a very mediocre hand. But I kept it because, Expert into Gempalm against the Birds deck is, like, decent. Another Gempalm. Looking a little scary against, like, a Decay now. I did pass it back, which I thought was a little interesting. So I go for the Expert in their upkeep. And they do Decay the Expert, which does kind of suck. But at least we drew a Matron. And Pyrokinesis is quite nice. I grab a Chainwhirler, so I have a guaranteed answer to birds, and it also hinders their development while also clocking them. So Chainwhirler is kind of the in-between option of clock plus disruption against this deck. I'm just kind of passing it back. Draw Skirk. So I decide I'm going to take it a little slower. Maybe try to bait them into playing. I mean, they know the Chainwhirler's there, so obviously I'm not going to bait them really, but it might delay their development even more. Also plays around a hardcast Force. They could hardcast a Force there. Walking Ballista for 2 takes out the Prospector, so I'm kind of sad about. But, it's not a huge deal. Draw a port. This was a tough spot, I think. I could just Gempalm the Ballista. I could cast the Ringleader. Unfortunately, I can't Chainwhirler plus Pyroblast or Red Elemental Blast a Force of Will. Which would have sucked. But they end up just, they just pop the Matron. In retrospect, I should have attacked first. They weren't going to block. So there's a food chain, but they don't have anything. They don't have any creatures to go with it. They don't have any payoff yet. And now this Red Blast has a really high value because I want to counter Manipulate Fate really bad. So I'm not tapping out for Ringleader. No way. They go for Ponder. I'm tapping blue sources so they can't chain cantrips. They go for Sylvan Library, which is also kind of scary. So at this point, I'm just like, I gotta clock them. Flash an Expert. 4 damage a turn. Land here is quite nice. Mana denial doesn't really matter at this point. They force Pitch Ponder. I could have Pyroblasted back, but again, the cards that I'm really scared of are Manipulate Fate, so they can actually combo kill me. So I was willing to allow the Ringleader to go down, because also now this is a 3-turn clock, right? Because they pay 1 life. So I think that's a reasonable, don't Pyroblast back. And I do have Pyrokinesis and Gempalm, so they need to go up the chain. And also if they take damage off Sylvan Library, they die. And they do take 4 here. So I know this is the make it or break it game. And I Pyroblast the Baleful Strix because in order, if they had... In order to win from here... Also, they've used a Ballista already. So that's relevant. So if they had... Manipulate Fate... Bird... Manipulate Fate, land, bird into Strix. Then Eternal Scourge, Mistala Griffin, Ballista. But that would require... There are 3 cards to be Manipulate Fate, land, bird. And they'd have to draw Strix or another 2-drop off of the bird, or off of the Manipulate Fate. So I think this is the really safe blast here. So they do have a Ballista in hand, so it's possible that blast saved me. So cycle Gempalm, so they don't get the free block, so they go to 1. And the land Scourge Rep doesn't do anything anyways, yeah. Yep. So I get kind of punished here. I could have played out the Cratermaker rather than to present 2 lethal threats rather than porting them. That's kind of a tough decision. I think I probably should have played the Cratermaker. Because now I'm a turn behind. If they get an extra turn of the Sylvan Library. But now they can't fetch. They're at 1. So that's pretty good. So Cavern is good. I play they can't Force of Will, so I play the Matron and then play the Cavern. Maybe it's supposed to, I don't know. If they had randomly had Daze in their deck, there's a reason to lead on Matron. Or play Matron not off of Cavern. If they had Blast, like Blue Blast, that kind of sucks. What's more likely? Probably Blue Blast is probably more likely. Yeah, I should have played the Matron off of Cavern. I don't think Food Chain plays Daze. All right, so this was here's round 10. This is against Dredge, and I'm on the draw. Very reasonable hand in the dark. I thought this is a pretty decent fair matchup hand, but it turns out we have our best card, which is Skirk Prospector, the Dredge matchup. Yeah, this is back-to-back 5-0s. When Sling-Gang came out, I don't think any of us were expected to be as good as it is. Yeah, I was pretty high on Sling-Gang when I first saw it. I was pretty confident that the card would replace Siege Gang pretty immediately. You can actually go back and watch my old videos because someone sent me the spoiler for Sling-Gang and Munitions Expert in the middle of a stream, like back in May, and last May. And you can see my reactions there, and I think I've watched those like back, and like, oh, I was actually kind of on point. Like, Munitions Expert will become a staple of the deck that will be a side. So I said like a 2-2 split with Gempalm is what my first assumption. Obviously 3-2 split is now stock, but Sling-Gang. I don't think I anticipated. I resisted playing 2 Sling-Gangs for a while. I played 1 Krenko, 1 Sling-Gang for a while because I really, really like Krenko. But the format has become worse for Krenko and better for Sling-Gang. All right, so turn 1 breakthrough off Cephalid Coliseum. Terrifying. Fucking terrifying. They did not have... I mean, they do have a Dredger, but they don't have a whole lot else. And they have 1 bridge. So we get our turn 1 Prospector. They have no cards in hand. So they can't activate Coliseum. It's relevant. So they had a Narcomoeba, there's a Hogak, no Cabal Therapies, no Icarids. Mana's looking a little dicey. But Prospector War Marshal is so good here. I thought about there's a consideration to jam out. Yeah, it makes the deck much like the technical goldfish speed is the same. Goblins could always kill on turn 3. But Sling-Gang makes it so that you can kill on turn 4 a lot more consistently and through more interaction. And it allows you to kill in like weirder circumstances. Killing out of combat is so huge. Also, life gain is so huge. Everything is so huge. The card's great. So anyway, there's a consideration to sack the War Marshal entirely to play Pashalik Mons, but there's a chance they hit like a bunch of bridges right there, and I don't want to have to sacrifice the Pashalik Mons to the Skirk Prospector. So they missed 1 damage. They could have attacked there, but so sack War Marshal in response to therapy, eat the bridge. So I just have like 3 bridges covered. You take Ringleader on my hands, good snipe. But again, Cephalid Coliseum doesn't really matter right now, I think. And Pashalik Mons. So anyone who played Goblins for a while knows that the best way to beat Dredge is Skirk Prospector plus Goblin Sharpshooter. They just could not beat that. Like it's just a lockout. Because you can always blow up bridges at instant speed, and you can snipe Icarids in the upkeep. So they just can't beat it. This isn't quite as good, but it is a turn faster. Oh, this is you yesterday? It is a turn faster because you don't have to wait for the Pashalik to untap. So Narcomoeba coming in. Pretty weak Dredge there. No therapies or something like that. Expert take out the Narc. Now I'm just clocking them pretty fast. Or them. Attack for 5. And sack. So I can also play the Matron. And now I grab Sling-Gang. Cabal Therapy would be pretty rough, but also if it's just therapy, then I just have lethal on the following turn anyway. So there's a bridge, but no therapy. And that's just lethal. Pashalik Sling-Gang is a freaking combo. So this configuration, the Cyborg configuration, I brought in the 2 Red Blasts because I kept dying to like breakthrough turns against Dredge on like turn 2. They would just wait a turn and break through me. So I started bringing in Red Blasts. I think it's okay. It's very medium. But 5 Graveyard Hate cards is pretty strong. We got our best one, which is Cage. Opponent mulligans to 5. City, Putrid Imp. Can't you stop? Yeah. Yeah, if there was a Cabal Therapy, I could have stopped it. Yeah, that's true. So, turn 1, slam, turn 1 Cage. There's an LED, looting. Discard 2 bridges. So at this point, I'm honestly scared of like, I think at the moment I was like, wait, I'm so scared of a Cabal Therapy flashback. Then I was like, wait, I like later I was like, wait, you can't flashback Cabal Therapy with a Cage in play. That's what the card does. This was a mistake. I don't know. I was scared of my opponent having, finding like a naturalize effect off of the looting. So I go for the Wasteland rather than the port there to, because obviously they could fire it off in my upkeep, or in their own upkeep if I went for port there. It's slightly more mana efficient for me to go for port, but this is a little safer. More LEDs that don't do anything. Cavern of Souls, fine draw, I guess. Get the Piledriver down. And now, I think in the moment I was more scared than I needed to be, because I don't think there's a way for them to trigger their own bridge by killing. I don't think they can kill their own creature anyway. Just go straight for the Sling-Gang. So natural Cabal Therapy. If they went land therapy, I'd be sad. Draw red source is nice. Some draws are more alive now. Get a swing in. Now the 2 bridges are offline permanently whenever I want. Draw another land. Next turn I could have hardcast Pyrokinesis if I had to. So just keep back the Sling-Gang. So they have to chump with the Imp, and then they discard a Thug. And then I sacrifice token, eat the bridges, and that's GG. Don't think they can get out of that with the cage, Sling-Gang, block. So that was the back-to-back 5. It was just 10 straight wins. Obviously, I'm really happy with this build. Some other leagues I did like an 0-2 drop, and then I had a 4-1, a 3-2. So like 4-1, 3-2, 0-2, 5-0, 5-0, I think. I updated my spreadsheet, so if you want to check that, the sheets in the Goblins Discord. So yeah, I'm really happy with this build. The Piledrivers were great. These leagues, as you can see, all the slots kind of feel just right. The mana base is fine. We definitely got mana screwed. I got mana screwed a couple of times on red sources. But they usually have ways to mitigate it with like Aether Vial. And like the games that I lost to it were like very speculative keeps that just didn't pan out, like the one Rug Delver game. I really like the 3 Piledrivers. I love the 3 War Marshals. If Plague Engineer rears his ugly head again, we might have to go up on a Cratermaker. The squad was quite good. We won us that match against Storm. Took the Dead of Winters and Snow, which is quite relevant. They didn't have any way to handle just our legion of 1/1s. If there aren't any sweepers in the deck, Mogg War Marshal becomes like just a huge pain in the ass. If someone forced me to run 60, what would I cut? Probably the 3rd Piledriver. Probably. I just think people are too married to 60 cards, like, as a dogma. Like, I think there are very reasonable reasons. There's a good logic behind playing 61 with this deck. And I think Thurban University published an article on this a while back that is what kind of turned me on to the idea that 61 is like sometimes correctly chosen. Okay, so the purpose behind it, of the 60 card rule, the purpose of the 60 card max is to maximize the chances of getting your most powerful cards. It is a noble goal, but not the only goal. Consider that all aspects of deck building, we get something less quotable, but much more useful. Build decks to balance the chances of drawing the cards in the deck. Prioritize the chances of drawing your stable playsets, but don't neglect the chances of drawing powerful 3-ofs or pairs. The goal is not to achieve any one number, but rather to have built in a nuanced manner to achieve a cohesive whole. No one ever. So this is the math that really showed me, like, the difference between 60 and 61 is very little in terms of 4-ofs in your opener.
Chance of having at least one of 4 Aether Vials, 39.9% in 60 cards. In 61 cards, it's 39.4%. It's a 0.5% difference. 2 players could take these similar decks through every round of several two-day Legacy GPs and never see any difference in vials. The difference is merely a rounding error in drawing any triples or pairs. However, the goal of drawing Thalia Heretic Cathar, the example 1 of, is fully met. The chance of naturally drawing it by turn 3 is nearly doubles. Adding a pair rather than a singleton. Rip Legacy GPs. So, in this deck, the chances of drawing your second Sling-Gang or your second Warchief or your second Gempalm in this example nearly doubles compared to if you just ran one of them. Adding a land is another factor. Like, I think if you could run 23 lands in Goblins, then I think you'd want to keep all the spells the same, but I don't think you can run 23 lands in Goblins. I think it's just too greedy. So the original deck is 23 mana base, including 10 planes and 3 Karakas. So we add other planes. So it basically decreases the chances of being stuck on 3 drops if nobody casts them. Yeah. You aren't really forced to judge the relative power of cards until you start considering what to cut. However, cutting a card is not the only outcome. Instead of cutting one card and reducing the chance of seeing it by a lot, you can reduce the chances of seeing every card by a tiny bit. It amazes me that one of these trade-offs is so commonly accepted and the other so thoroughly vilified. Yeah, so if you ran 24 lands, you just cut a random goblin. You get 32 goblins, whereas this we still get 33, but with still 24 lands, so the Ringleader improves, obviously. This matters more post-board, I think, where, say it's a fair matchup where Ringleader still matters, and say you're boarding out, we're just going to pick some random goblins. Say you're boarding out 5 goblins. And you're boarding in 5 non-goblins. If you have 60 cards, meaning you have 1 less Sling-Gang, we're down to 27 Ringleader hits. Meaning, and 27 from experience, I don't know the math off the top of my head, but 28 is like a decent post-board Ringleader count number. And 27 is when you start to see, like, you start to notice the drop-off pretty significantly. And that your Ringleaders are starting to hit 1 or 2 much more often than they hit 3 or 4. Do I ever think about not playing Goblins? Goblins is the only deck I have on Moto. I sold humans for the most part. So no. If people like gave me decks, I would probably play them on stream if they wanted to like give them to me and pay me for it. But most people on my channel like Goblins a lot and just prefer to view it. Because I'm the only one. There's Legacy Goblins on Twitch who streams Goblins occasionally. But it's mostly just me doing Goblins content. So yeah, so we go down with 60 cards. We're going on to 27 post board after siding 5 cards, and then with 61, we're up to 28 still, which I'm just way more comfortable with that number. Maybe that's just a psychological thing. Couldn't you argue that you should run 62 then? Yeah, you could. It's not just like a. Yeah, that's right. Common counter argument to someone considering 61st card is, well, why stop 61? Why not add 62? Why not add 10 cards? Well, it's not an actual counter argument, but rather something to consider. Could 62 or more ever be ideal? The more cards you add, the more dilute, the most powerful cards in your deck. So, cumulative 0.5 less vials percent, 0.5% less vials. For historic goblin sightings to non-goblins, how many can I bring in? In matchups where Ringleader matters, you generally don't want to go below 28. That's kind of my rule of thumb. You would prefer 30. You really want to keep Ringleader as high as possible. Though historic might have different, there's different things to consider because you guys don't have Vial, so you're probably playing more lands, but I'm not really sure. Yeah, eventually you simply run out of cards whose power level equally justify destabilizing the rest of the deck. So, zero tolerance viewpoint is usually the lazy way out. It is so much easier to simply decree that every 61 card deck is fundamentally broken than to examine whether or not that is actually true. So I think Phil's point here is really, really good. If Ringleader always matters in Historic, then you should board like 4 cards. How many Ringleader hits do you have pre-board is a question, I guess. Yeah, try to avoid boarding out more than 5 goblins if you're not boarding in more goblins. I mean, this is why in other formats, goblins really benefits from having, like, the more goblins you can play in your sideboard, the better. The entire deck is goblins and lands. Okay, how many lands are you playing? Generally, the more goblins you can play in your goblin sideboard, the more functional your deck will become. Ringleader doesn't matter against combo decks, kind of, but also there's some instances where he does, because he'll find Squad or something, or Sling-Gang, which is effectively a hate piece. Trashmaster. 23-24 lands. Okay, so you've got 37 hits. I wouldn't worry about it too much then. Just don't board. You can board down to like, you got 36 hits, 36, 37. So you can board down to probably like 32, 31 goblins and be totally fine. I mean, if goblins had like direct hate bears in the tribe, then Ringleader would become a lot more relevant in post-board games against combo, because you could go like turn 1 Lackey, drop Ringleader, cast a hate bear that you got off of the Ringleader. So yeah, that's about it for me. I wanted to say a whole bunch of people. Hey Tom, link the article. Yeah, sure. A whole bunch of people signed up for the Patreon since I posted it on Twitter, and a bunch of people like retweeted support, so I really, really appreciate that. A bunch of people signed up for the Cyborg Guide and stuff, what I just updated, so that's brand new, all for this exact build, I believe. And I'm gonna have an article coming out in the next couple days about like common play mistakes in Goblins, kind of a how to play guide to some extent, or at least covering some aspects of things, common decision making processes that are important. So yeah, thank you for everyone who's supporting the channel. Just a little quiet review stream today. Obviously, the deck has been really good to me lately. 10 wins in a row is pretty insane. I'm going to keep playing, off and on next week or so. I'll probably play on stream at some point. Yeah, for now, I'm going to sign off, have some food. Glad people popped in and said hello. Anurag streaming. We're going to send you over to Anurag. So check out the YouTube channel for the VOD. If you want to review this or any of my previous streams, check out the Patreon in the description of the Twitch stream or of the YouTube channel. Always put it down there. Follow me on Twitter for more Goblin news and to see when I'm going to start streaming. And catch you guys next time.